Hello, my name is Greta Harrison. Welcome to Born Fabulous Podcast, Season 3, Episode 13. The theme of this season is young adults with intellectual disabilities living full lives of independence and interdependence. You will hear interviews with parents, support staff, and of course the young adults with intellectual disabilities. Please note these interviews were done 1 to 2 years ago. Achieving independence is a complex journey for many individuals and families. There were many stops and starts with various entities when putting together Season 3. Regardless, this content is very relevant and we hope you will find it helpful. This episode is the last of 5 parts with Janice Fialka and Richard Feldman. Though they both say they are retired, Janice and Richard continue to be sought-after presenters and speakers on issues relating to disability, inclusion, building community, advocacy, and more. Janice is also the author of 4 books and a poet. Richard and Janice are the proud parents of Micah Fialka-Feldman, one of the stars of the film Intelligent Lives. Micah has an intellectual disability. It was a real treat to have this in-depth discussion with both Janice and Rich. Now please enjoy this short clip of Love is a Potion. The lyrics are by Melissa Riggio, a young lady who had Down syndrome and was the focus of episodes 1 through 4 in Season 1. The music and voice are by Rachel Fuller.
Love holds deeply inside. Love does not tear apart. Love is a potion. Love is passion. Love never fails. Love's emotion.
The phrase that I use, maybe I already have with you, Greta, is that and I learned this from another parent, it's not about letting go, it's learning how to hold on differently. Because none of us ever really totally let go, right? I mean, yeah. I just have to share with you, thank you, Richard, for those thoughts, because it gets me turning. But I picked up the Sibling Slam book, which you now still can get on, through whatever, by Don Meyer. But there's an article when Emma spoke at a conference, and this was when she was in high school. And I just want to read a couple of the lines. This is Emma. Micah taught me to accept people for who they are instead of what they can or can't do. I've learned to ask others for help. I have not read this in years. So Emma's saying, I've learned to ask others for help. We tend to see it as a weakness, but asking really builds community. If I can model that, then siblings will learn that from me. This is so interesting. Yeah. So there she is, sharing that as well. So
that's beautiful. And I'm glad you read that, because I don't want listeners to think that, oh, she doesn't love her brother. She loves her brother very much, and they have a very close relationship. You were just being honest about sibling feelings that happen when people are growing up.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad you did that.
It's an honest.
That's honest. Honest.
Well, they have so much fun together. And now at this age, we're the ones they tease, and they get together and go, they make jokes about their weird parents. So absolutely. And they present together too. So thank you for lifting that up as well. Yes,
they do. And for the listeners who don't know, Micah has presented at Harvard, correct?
Harvard or
he did something.
Brown University, and I think he did present. It's hard to track all of that.
I wish all the educators in the past could know all the things that he's done. That's amazing. Now, what about, we've talked about the rewards, and let's talk about some of the pitfalls. You've talked a few times about worrying in the middle of the night, which I think every parent can really relate to. So just touch on that briefly. We don't want it to be a big downer, but what are some of the pitfalls?
It's a big downer, the worries. Of course they are. And if you can't be irreverent about it and laugh once in a while, so thanks for that opportunity. It's easier to say that it's all uncertain, the future, but not being able to make it better is always in your belly. because you can't and you know it. So we're always convincing ourselves we know it. It hurts. It's painful. It's scary. You want, parents want things to be smooth. You want to be able to hug and say it's all right. It doesn't. The world doesn't work that way, and nobody works that way. So, a specific the pain that he has to go through finding a roommate every year, the pain when he doesn't have anything to do on a Saturday night, the pain when we're getting 10 texting messages in an hour of how are you? I'm having, and he's always having an amazing day, but he'll have some, so in terms of his voice, but so I think it's what all parents go through in many ways. It's all parents want their kids to be fulfilled, happy, and you want it all the time, but you also know that's not how the world is, and it never is, and never will be, and that's why you need a circle, you need a companion. I mean, a friend, a lover, a wife, a spouse, a husband, a cousin. You need people to vent, to share. It's just,
Yeah, you said it well. To fall apart, to moments of despair, of terror. We can't stay stuck there, but most of us, or at least many of us, experience that. It's real, Yeah.
Well, I think it's powerful for people to know that a couple like you who've been really helping so many families over a long period of time, that you still have these same concerns that almost every parent has. So thank you for being honest.
Just to add to that, I mean, also the amount of times we fight with each other and we argue. And we don't do it so nicely sometimes, right? I mean, but you mentioned the word love, I mean, a few times, and the difference between loving your spouse and liking them all the time, or agreeing on how to deal with our young adults with disabilities is a challenge, so.
At our 40th anniversary gathering, which was still during COVID, we had outside with drumming and, everybody was distanced. And but Emma gave a little talk. I think, was it COVID? It doesn't really matter. Anyway, it was before COVID. That's right. And Emma gave a little talk, and Micah did as well. But Emma said, one thing I learned from my parents is that they can fight hard and love hard. And at first, I went, but so many people came up and thanked Emma because, we're sort of shy as a culture about, the challenging ways of being. And so, we've had our ups and downs, and at various points we've gone into therapy to sort of have another person there to help us negotiate all of that tension as well. So I appreciate your asking that question, because it doesn't pay to not be honest.
And I love that you fight hard and love hard, because it's that second part that makes it keep going, isn't it?
Yes.
I love that. Now, beyond your books, your movie, the movie is Intelligent Lives, and there's another film out there, Through the Same Door, and poems. Are there any specific resources that you want to steer parents and self-advocates to that help foster their future interdependence and independence?
Well, what probably for us, I mean, there's so many now. Oh my goodness. One of the probably key communities has been, people can go to the website inclusion.com. Jack Pearpoint, Marcia Forrest, Linda Kahn. Every year up until COVID, there was the Toronto Summer Institute that brought people from around the world together, where we learned about Circle of Friends, MAPS. We learned how overall, you cannot rely on the systems. You don't truck. I mean, we still draw from them, but it's not the systems and the agencies that are going to be able to do it all. And that's a hard lesson. So anyways, I think now the title is Marcia Forrest Inclusion Institute. I don't remember the exact, but inclusion.com definitely is one of them. There's so many people. I think one of the books that have been really important to our family was Andrew Solomon's book, Far from the Tree, which he interviewed families that had children with disabilities, all kinds of differences. Yeah, I mean, I could turn my head to, these books here as well. What
Well, I was just going to say, I think there are so many books now because of the disability justice movement that's emerged, that are the young activists that are involved in all the social movements now, and again, it's individual advocacy is one framing. Seeing it as a social question for transforming society is seeing the relationship between our understanding as parents, that it's not just creating a safe way for our young people to grow, but how does the world change? So there are so many books. I mean, any parent that has never read No Pity, which is the history of the disability movement in the United States, was written gobs of years ago, is missing an opportunity. There's, I can't think of all the books. There's a book by Naomi Ortiz, Self-Care, and there's
we can provide
website. I mean, there's podcasts and advocacy groups that parents need to take a little peek into as they're going through, and it's different for all parents at different stages of their child's or young person's thinking and growth. Right, people have different needs.
I will have a page for you all and Micah on the season 3 part of the podcast on bornfabulouspodcast.com. Yeah. And so on that page, I will have a list that you all can send me of resources. But I'm glad that you discussed some of them. And I just want to make a pivot here because it reminds me, the first mentor I had was Steve and Laura Riggio. He's the former CEO of Barnes and Noble, and their daughter Melissa. And when their daughter Melissa was born in 1988, there were not any books about people with disabilities. It is because of Melissa's birth and his aha moment that he started making sure. And for all those who don't know, pre-Amazon, we relied on bookstores, real bookstores, and he made sure that they had thousands and thousands of titles that had to do with disability. So, fast forward from that. And for those who want to know, my conversation with Steve and Laura Riggio is in season 1. They start out in season 1 because you remind me of that. There's so many resources out there now. There weren't then, but there are now. There's immense number.
I do want to lift up one book for listeners too, Alice Wong, W-O-N-G. And I don't have the title right in front of me. It's downstairs, but it's stories of people with disabilities. So when we are ready as family members, we need to read those stories because they really are our teachers. And she did a beautiful job of collecting stories. And actually, there's a wonderful new children's book. We've already purchased 20 copies called We Move Together. Beautiful illustrations of every kind of person in the whole world. And they also, the authors are from Toronto, and they also have it available for people who are hearing impaired or visually impaired as well. So on and on, but wanted to lift up those, and forgive us for those that have influenced us that we didn't lift up, but we'll have it on the hard copy. Yep.
That's great. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Now, what advice would you have for parents coming up behind you? I know you could probably do a whole weekend of advice, but.
Well, I think we've woven so much of sort of our principles, as well. I mean, I have a quote right here attached to my computer that says, "To hell with bootstraps. For surely we need to swoop in on most days and save each other." So, knowing that, as we've said over and over, we're not alone. I do think humor is really important. Being able to laugh, be silly, make inside family jokes that maybe you never would share with anybody else. but they work for, for your family, or they work for our family. Great expectations, and not to necessarily accept what people tell you is the right way in school settings, but to rather than accept ACCEPT, expect more. Those are a few that highlight, in addition to everything we've talked about in your wonderful listening.
And Rich, I can see your wheels spinning.
Advice, there's a Native American conversation that starts with respect us or expect us. And the expecting means that we're going to be at your doorsteps knocking down walls for change. And I guess the only advice is to find the support where you can ask the questions you need to ask. I don't know. I really don't. I mean, I think we've shared.
You're in it from the long run. We're in our 70s, okay? And Micah's in his late 30s. Emma's in her mid 30s. I mean, this is a long road, and so you got to take care of yourself in community with others, and really have fun times with the family. Everything might be falling apart, but maybe you go trampoline, or you go for a hike or a swim, or you go eat ice cream. Cherish those little moments, because those are the things that get you to the next place, because life can be so heavy. And it is heavy, and it's also got to be filled with dance or ice cream or noodles or whatever it might be that brings you that joy and that togetherness. Easy to say, but it's true, I think.
It's definitely true. Ice cream is the best. There's no question about it. I think two things in terms of advice. One is we make this journey by walking and rolling, and there's no destination except what we create. And it's just got to be filled with the belief that human beings can be much more than we are, and that our children and our family members can change in this process, even with all the disappointments we'll face and all the obstacles, that human beings can be. We ain't seen what's possible yet, but each of your parents who are watching this and professionals, if they have that kind of respect for the people they're working with and they're relating to and in their own families, we'll inch the world a little more forward.
And I hope that there are a lot of community members listening too, because that's how inclusion really happens, when we get out of our bubbles.
Yes.
And it's everybody who's involved. So I'm praying for that. Well, I thank you for that. Thank you so much. Is there your last opportunity, anything else you want to say?
Thank you for having the courage to keep on doing this. This is, however many people watch it, they're going to learn a whole lot from not obviously just this interview, but all the other work you do in your own story, and so much that you've contributed. So thank you so much.
Micah, absolutely, Greta. We have enormous respect for your pioneering work, your commitment to this. I remember years ago, Micah was asked, so Micah, do you wish you didn't have a disability? And, he was around people who had disability pride, and he learned about that, and he looked at the person and said, no, I mean, I get to meet the best people in the world. And I think there's something to that when we find our tribe and we learn with them and reach out to others, we're with whatever that means, the best people. And ultimately we all are. So thank you.
I love that. And that makes me share a story about Micah, because when I was interviewing the self-advocates in season 2, there was a difference in the language they wanted to use. Kayla she wanted to use the language differently abled, which I respected, and we used that. So then when I talked to Micah and Tori, I mentioned that, and I said, would you like to do that? And Micah said, let me think about it. And he came back right away and said, no. I learned a long time ago to be proud of my disability, and I learned to go ahead and say that. And so I respected that too. Both opinions are valid. I'm not going to knock either one, but I just love that that Kayla and Micah both stood up for what they believed.
Yeah.
And they both said how they wanted to have this addressed. But I just wanted to mention, you've raised such a strong young man there, and he's a great young man. And
Well, and what a beautiful, I mean, your gift is your ability to frame it that way and to even have respect to ask that question of each person, Greta. So we lift that up in you as well.
well, thank you. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I admire you both so much. I thank you for being such change makers in the world. And I know you're going to keep on keeping on. And we will definitely be staying in touch. Thank
Look
you
forward to
so
it.
Thank
much.
you very much.
Thank you for listening to episode 13 of Born Fabulous Podcast's third season. I hope you enjoyed it and want to hear more. Some short video clips from most episodes are available on our YouTube channel and on bornfabulouspodcast.com. In episode 14, you will meet Janice and Richard's son, Micah Fialka-Feldman. Micah is one of the stars of the acclaimed film Intelligent Lives. He is also a teaching assistant at Syracuse University, a sought-after keynote speaker, and soon-to-be author. His book, Opening Doors, is scheduled to launch in late summer 2024 by Inclusion Press. Please follow and like us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd be honored if you would leave a review wherever you heard this podcast. Now, please enjoy this clip of Love is a Potion. The lyrics are by Melissa Riggio, a young lady who had Down syndrome and was the focus of episodes 1 through 4 in Season 1. The music and voice are by Rachel Fuller.